All right, everyone. J.D. Vance and Tim Walz had their vice presidential debate, and the result was pretty much as I expected. I managed to watch it, when I got back from jail last night before I went to bed. And J.D. Vance was on point. He was in prime form. Walz didn't do as badly as I expected, and there were times that he actually spoke about issues. Mostly, I think that Walz's strategy was to try to look likable. J.D. Vance's strategy was trying to smooth his image over, because he sometimes acts like a little bit of a hard ass, but mainly stuck to issues. I think that in that sense they both kind of accomplished their goals, but I think J.D. Vance quite clearly accomplished it much more than Tim Walz, because Tim Walz doesn't seem like a pernicious individual. You gotta understand, a president and vice president are deliberately juxtaposed against one another. So, old president, younger vice president. We've got that with Obama, or vice versa. Like Obama was very young, so he chooses Biden. He's an older gentleman, if you can call him that. Biden chooses Kamala as a counterbalance to his age. Trump chose Vance partially because of age. That's one juxtaposition. Also, personality-wise, you want to have a juxtaposition. So one of Vance's main goals is Trump tends to be, he's very forceful, all business all the time, make America great again, and stuff like that. So Vance, he can't just be a hard ass. He has to stick to the issues because you need to counterpose against a very vacuous opponent. Kamala Harris never talks about issues unless it's something deranged. And so, you have to stick to that. But you also have to smooth over your image with voters so that people don't think you're an asshole, basically. Tim Walz, I think, in the sense of being a little bit on the chuckly side at times, considering that Kamala is known as Cackling Kamala for a reason, I don't know that that's actually the wisest thing to do, because people already knew that side of him. What he needed to do was look more serious, more businesslike. On that measure, he failed. And on the issues, I think J.D. Vance gets a 2-to-1, basically. So again, it was about the ratio that I expected. J.D. Vance quite clearly won. There's a link in the description, not archived this time. I wanted people to just take the goddamn live link here, which I thought was hilarious. It's from Yahoo News, actually. Keep in mind that Yahoo News tends to be at least left-leaning, if not dedicatedly liberal. Even they're saying that J.D. Vance clearly came out on top on pretty much everything. J.D. Vance did exactly what he needed to do. Now, what impact does this have on the presidential race? Unfortunately, a fairly blunted impact, despite the lopsided nature of it. People should pay more attention to who the running mate is, because you gotta realize they're gonna be a heartbeat away from the presidency. But most people don't see it that way. They tune that out. They're focused solely on the presidential candidate. Honestly, I find that to be regrettable. I definitely look at who the running mate is. Like, let's say that Trump had chosen Nikki Haley. I would be less enthusiastic about the ticket by far. Vance is in the decent but not perfect range. I would have preferred Tulsi Gabbard, for example. Would have been very, very pleased with that. But J.D. Vance is perfectly acceptable. With Walz, would I want him to be president of the United States? No. Ironically, though, I'd prefer him to be president over Kamala Harris. Because she's a psychopath. He's not a psychopath, he's just a standard neoliberal who casts himself off as a chuckly dude. Does he have messed up ideologies? Yeah, of course he does. But he's a liberal, so, that doesn't surprise me in the least. But at least he's not psychotic. And at least he wouldn't feel pressured, by the way, to start a war necessarily if he were elected to the presidency, unlike Kamala, who absolutely would feel both an external and an interior desire to do so. In this debate, you see J.D. Vance countering Tim Walz's occasional attacks perfectly. He's quite good at debating. I think that he's definitely, if Trump is elected, J.D. Vance will be the heir apparent for 2028. Would I feel comfortable with his capabilities in running against a Democratic opponent? After this debate, yeah, absolutely. I think that he's proven that he's capable of doing that, so that's another score for J.D. Vance. I don't think that they'll have any problems in this election. I think this slightly raises the odds of a Trump victory. but only slightly. While people will watch the debate, it doesn't matter as much to them as the presidential candidates themselves, even though technically the running mate is running for potential president of the United States. I thought J.D. Vance did a very good job. I would give it a 9 out of 10, actually. With Tim Walz, he gets more like a 4 out of 10. It's like, well, you didn't completely flub the debate. It wasn't a complete disaster like, that debate Trump had with Joe Biden. But clearly Tim Walz was outclassed by J.D. Vance. This doesn't come as a surprise. It was entirely predictable. That's one reason why it's less interesting, because it's like, I figured this was probably going to happen. It was expected. Now, if I expect somebody to do fairly well in a debate and they completely crash and burn, or I suspect that they'll do an okay job and they really soar, that's much more interesting than what happened here. Although some people, they were betting on Tim Walz probably to deliver a great performance. Considering the news that I'm seeing, even from liberal outlets, I don't think they got quite what they expected. That's about all. Peace out.